Hello students, moving towards the next part of the chapter 6, that is life processes. In this we are going to study about first the heterotrophic nutrition and its type. In the earlier video we have already done the nutrition in plants. Now first of all we are going to do the types of heterotrophic nutrition and then the nutrition in animals. Heterotrophic nutrition is the nutrition in which the animals depend on either the autotrophs or on other animals for its food or for the derivation of their food. So, the type of heterotrophic nutrition are of three types. First is holozoic nutrition, saprophytic nutrition and parasitic nutrition. In case of holozoic nutrition, holo means whole. So the animal in holozoic nutrition takes in the food and breaks down inside the body of an organism. For example, in case of amoeba that we have already seen in the previous slides, that amoeba exhibit holozoic nutrition. Another nutrition is saprophytic nutrition. In this, organism feed on dead and decaying matter such as mushroom. So the fungi mushroom is going to derive its food from the dead decaying tree logs or the decaying leaves from which they are going to feed their food. And another heterotrophic nutrition is parasitic nutrition. In this case, the organism called parasites, they live inside or outside the other organisms, and the organisms on which they are dependent are called as host, and the organism who are going to live inside the body of host are known as parasites. So what they do, there is a host parasite interaction for the derivation of food. The example of parasitic nutrition is cuscuta, also known as plant parasite, and ticks. They live on the body of animals and these ticks are then eaten up by the birds. So this was about the heterotrophic nutrition. Nutrition in animals. There are certain steps that are involved in the process of nutrition. That is, first is ingestion, where the food is taken out by the organism. Then the next step is digestion, where the food is broken down from the complex material to the simpler ones. This simpler ones or the simpler food is then moved towards the small intestine for the process of absorption, and this utilization of food is done by the process known as assimilation. And after the food is absorbed and assimilated, the waste products are removed out from the body by the process known as egestion. So the steps involved are, first is ingestion, then digestion, absorption, assimilation, and the last process is egestion. Now let us study about the nutrition in human beings. In human beings, food is taken by mouth. So the process of ingestion is happening in mouth. So with the help of mouth, the whole food is taken inside, where the food is chewed or girdled with the help of teeth, and the food is then rolled, and according to the taste of food it is being swallowed and pushed up towards the esophagus. In the mouth only there is a gland known as salivary gland which secretes saliva and mucus. Now in the ingestion process, food is mixed with saliva, and here is the first step where the digestion takes place, or the digestion starts from mouth itself, because due to the presence of saliva along with the food, the starch present in the food is converted to sugar using the enzyme salivary amylase. After the food is ingested, it is then moved from mouth to stomach with the help of a food pipe or esophagus. In this, the food is continuously moved in a movement known as peristaltic movement. So what is peristaltic movement? Peristaltic movement is the movement in which there is a continuous contraction and expansion of muscles of esophagus in order to move the food from mouth to stomach. In the stomach, when the food reaches the food, the gastric juices that are present or that are secreted by the gastric glands starts acting upon the food. So when these gastric juices starts acting upon it, it is going to produce, since it contains three things, pepsin, hydrochloric acid and mucus, so they are going to act upon the food by the following enzymes or the juices. So the gastric juice contains pepsin. This will be going to break down the food that is rich in proteins. So the proteinaceous food is going to break down by the enzyme known as pepsin, thereby making the medium of the stomach acidic by the presence of acidic stomach acid known as hydrochloric acid. Now in the stomach, mucus is also present. As we are aware that acid is present inside the stomach, but it does not, the lining of the stomach does not gets ruined or affected by the presence of acid. So what is going to help the stomach in order to save themselves from the action of acid, that is HCl? It is the mucus. Mucus is going to protect the inner lining of the stomach, which helps not to be ruined or not to be get affected by the stomach acid, that is HCl. After the stomach, food is going to move to small intestine for the process of absorption, where the enzymes from the intestine known as intestinal enzymes are going to act upon the food according to their preferability. So the intestinal enzymes act on carbohydrates to produce glucose. If the food is rich in fats or the nutrients, fats is being acted upon by the intestinal enzymes and it is broken down into fatty acids and glycerol, and proteins are then broken down into chain of amino acids. So villi are the finger-like projections that are present in small intestine that helps in the absorption of food into the blood. Other accessory organs that are going to help in the process of digestion are the liver. The liver secretes bile, which helps in the emulsification of large fat globules into the smaller globules. On the other hand, pancreas is also going to produce pancreatic juice, which contains two enzymes, that is trypsin and lipases. Trypsin converts proteins into peptones or peptides, and lipases acts on fat materials to convert them into lipids. After this, the food is moved to large intestine for the absorption of excess water. The excess water is then absorbed in the large intestine, and rest of the food material is then removed from the body via anus, where the ejection or the waste material is removed off. Rectum and anus are the last part of large intestine, or we can say the last part of digestive tract, wherein the remaining waste material is stored and removed by the process of defecation. In this anus, there are small internal and external muscles called sphincters, which are going to remove the waste material from the body in the form of stool. So this was about the digestion that is going in human beings. Then there is a question arises, why there is a difference in small intestine of herbivore and carnivore. This is a very important question. You must note, herbivores are the organisms or the animals that feed on grass. So in order to have the digestion of cellulose, they requires a longer small intestine so that the cellulose can be digested in a proper manner or properly. On the other hand, carnivores are the animals who feed on either the flesh of smaller animals or bigger animals, or they are dependent on the flesh basically, like tigers. So they require shorter small intestine for the digestion. That is why, because they require, the herbivores needs a longer time for the digestion of cellulose, so they have larger or the longer smaller intestines as compared to carnivores. Few important points regarding the small intestine and the large intestine is, the large intestine of human is around 1.5 meters. On the other hand, the length of small intestine in human is 7.5 meters. Please have a note on these 2 points. This is very important. And peristaltic movement, which we have already done in the previous lecture, where there is a contraction and expansion of gut, where the food is moved along the gut. So this is what the peristaltic movement, and it occurs in small intestine as well as in esophagus also. With this, we finishes off nutrition in animals. Next, in the next videos, we are going to study about respiration. Hope you like this video. Please share, like and subscribe the channels. Thank you so much.